Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the StarLadder I-League StarSeries Season 3 online stage of the event. Obnoxious with me on the casting desk, I guess. We're across, countries, but on the casting desk is Firebat. James Kostasic. Is that how you pronounce it?
You nailed it. I'm not even going to try yours. I get nightmares just looking at it. Hell of a name you got there.
Yeah, I worked on the spelling of it. It took me a long time as a kid to really just nail it.
Yeah, and no one even knows if you're spelling it right either. So your teachers are probably just like, I guess that's probably right.
Kasim Kailai Jai. I'm not too sure how that's going. Anyway, man, we've got a few more games coming up today, guys. We've had a few days prior to this. I think we're on the fourth day of the online stage of the league, and today we have 5 matches for you between some of the top-tier players in the scene. We've got Xixo versus Orange coming up first, followed by Stansifka RDU. Orange versus Nyria, Xixo versus Dr. Happy, as well as Stansifka versus Zelay. Now, a lot of these guys were in the EU versus CN. A lot of them are playing in the HGG. So a lot of competitive games, being played by them over the course of the recent weeks and coming up as well in the future weeks.
Yeah, these guys have been really playing a ton. I just recently casted Xixo, Orange, Stansifka, RDU for about, I think it was 10 days straight. I casted their games. They were grinding out like 8 hours of Hearthstone a day at tournament level play with control decks, most of them featuring N'Zoth. So I'm really hoping they learned from their mistakes at that event and got rid of the N'Zoth decks.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those interesting things about the beginning of an expansion before the refinement of aggro decks, where you see people gravitate towards control, and then the one tournament where that gets shut down, you never see control again for a sizable portion of time if aggro is dominant. So in Group A, we have Neyman at 4-1 score, Neria 3-2, Bonnie Hopper and Thais as well. Dr. Hippie 2-3. Xixo and Orange still haven't disputed any matches, so they're still 0-0 on the board and are going to get their first points today. Stansifka and RDU in the same boat that we're going to see play today as well. And Zelay with his 1 win on Group B is one of the few players who played there.
Right. A lot of the players just got back from China like today or yesterday, so they haven't had too much time to rest, and they're just getting ready to get back into it, and that's why they have 0-0 scores right now. But one thing I want to bring up is the number 1 player in both groups. You got Neyman and Zelay, both brought all aggro lineups. Now, I'm not saying that it couldn't be a coincidence, but aggro's good, guys. Aggro's good.
There's an interesting trend too, right? Like where with control decks, where a lot of them are very value oriented nowadays instead of just being about removal. It's no longer just a removal game. We're really playing a value game where we're trying to get more cards than the opponent to starve them out of options. And with the amount of discoveries that can happen and the amount of upsets that can come through, multiple Tyrians and a control Paladin and, Ragnaros shots when the control wire goes long, it's usually better to never give the opponent the opportunity to capitalize on that value. And so aggro matchups, or decks that is, tend to be where people gravitate when they want to blow out their opponents.
So the lineups here for either player, we have no Druid from Orange, which is really strange. Most players, I'd say in the last few tournaments I've casted, have all had Druid and Paladin in their lineup. Not the same variants, but some form of one or the other. So it's really interesting that he's happening to not bring either a Jade Druid, which is just super good if you're bringing a control-oriented lineup, or a Token Druid, which is insane if you're bringing an aggro lineup. So something unique is going on over there.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, too, that the Jade deck for Druid is probably one of the best ones against control decks, and the aggro Druid tends to be one of the better ones at being aggressive against a wide array of
Hearthstone. Yeah.
Yeah, at the moment, it's pretty much one of the best ones. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. That class seems to have everything going for it, but Orange decides not to bring either of them. Now, the question is, what his lineup contains, because we see Warrior, we see Paladin. Traditionally, those classes mean, hey, I'm playing control lineup, but we've learned in recent days that Pirate Warrior and Murloc Paladin are definitely capable of putting on the aggression.
Right. It seems like Orange is maybe going for a target Jade Druid kind of lineup. We can already see opening up with the aggro Murloc Paladin up against Xixo's Quest Rogue.
Or maybe targeting the Quest Rogue with 3 super aggressive decks. That's another possibility. Yeah. Oh, with that hand, it might not work as well, but...
Yeah. That's the kind of way people build the aggro Murloc Paladin nowadays. They don't run on Divine Favor or anything like that. They just curve up to Tyrion, So it's got to be like one of the largest curving aggro decks of all time in Hearthstone history. Just goes all the way up to 8, and sometimes even runs value generators like Stonehill Defender, which you wouldn't think would make the cut in an aggro deck, but it just works out. Xixo prepping the Mimic Pod, pointing the dagger here.
So he's just valuing getting bodies on the board. And one of the things that's important too is that against aggro, you need to get the dagger out as soon as possible to chip away at their minions. Hence, you see rogues tend to do that very often. I really don't know though, like the way the Paladin is built now. You know, we had the initial list, as you mentioned, with Divine Favor and Small Time Recruits. You know, those guys were super, like, hyper aggressive and just trying to dump their hand. Reminds me a bit of the Zulocks that started playing Mal'Ganis for a time. Like, they started curving out at the very, very top end with weird taunt techs for late game. It's been a while.
It's just so powerful. Like, you can't not play Tyrion. It's just too good. But now Xixo needs to try and figure out how he's going to complete the quest while trying to keep the board under control. And that means Glacial Shard and everything.
Yeah, I think he's looking for bounce at this point, clearly, for the Glacial Shards. And, you know, getting it off of Mimic Pod, we didn't really highlight that, but that's a big deal. In this matchup, especially when you're looking at it from the perspective of a class that has no self-heal, you pretty much couldn't find anything better than Glacial Shard to get off of Mimic Pod. But
it's one of the better ones. It's no Shadow Step, but it'll get the job done. It's super strong against anti-aggro. It's already healed him for 3 this turn, just being able to stop the 3/3.
Well, Orange is looking at Sunkeeper Tarim potentially. I guess if you wanted to clock faster, you could play something else, but I think he's already got the turn 4 mapped out as it is. So it's a matter of figuring out what he does on turn 5. Could play Wicker Flame Hero Power, set up a Spiker's Steed. There's a lot of things, but if you want to deny the quest.
Yeah, Sunkeeper is just the most powerful of the choices. Next turn, he's got a turn 4 play. You don't want to play a 2/2 Divine Shield and a Hero Power on turn 5. That's just a sad, low-pressure play, so I like the choice of just getting the Sunkeeper.
Yeah, it's probably the... Is it the best card in the set? Okay, let's not exaggerate, but it's arguably put in more power than... I think it's at least the most underrated card in the set. Whoa! That draw from Xixo.
Yeah, the tech lands. That is what you want to see if you're a Xixo fan. Getting the Hungry Crab and the Quest Rogue is super good. Oftentimes they win from this position.
Yeah.
He just needs to make sure he saves the Glacial Shard for bounces, hopefully eventually finds the bounces for his sake, or he needs to make sure he can set it up to be able to be played with the Banish.
So Orange here, not too many options open to him, but he's looking at the following turns. Regardless, you know, any outcome, pick up Wind Fury on that 1/4, that's pretty sweet. Pick up a Death Rattle with plans, that's okay. There's actually a lot of options in there that make sense. The big worry is...
Yeah, like, Stonehill Defender is a good card, but it's not a Murloc.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the problem with... Oh, that's right, my bad. I was considering...
See that room fly across the screen?
Yeah, what was that?
I have no idea. I've never seen that before.
Somebody clicked something.
I'm glad you saw it, too.
Yeah, I did.
Like, I'm like, what is going on right now? Is this... We just started. This is going to be a rough cast. I'm already seeing broomsticks fly around the screen, you know? Like, holy smokes.
Maybe it's just a Karazhan thing. That's a Karazhan board. It's got to be.
It's part of the Karazhan board?
I think it is. Yeah, that's like Medivh's Tower or something. It's got to be one of those. I can't imagine StarLadder's messing with us.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
All right. That's Orange now with a very obvious Finja. Gives him a really big push for next turn, actually. That Curator into Tyrion, that is a... This hand.
Yeah.
Got power on it.
He got Hungry Crabbed, but he has got the curve to dig his way out of this. Like, he didn't hit the early game really spot on, but this mid-game pressure, you get Finja into Tarim, into Curator, into Tyrion. Yeah, you could probably just beat them post-quest with that kind of power level. That's the strength of Paladin, right? They don't need Divine Favor because their late game is just the bee's knees, man.
Yeah, I don't think it gets any better than this, dude. Like, that's one of the things about Paladin that's so interesting about, like, the way it changed from the early hyper aggro builds is that you have, like, 2 avenues to beat up a rogue. Is either you blow them out early with a crazy aggression, or you just get that Sunkeeper on time to stop their 5/5s from doing anything, get the big taunts, get the weapon, and just damage them for 15 over 2 to 3 turns. It's kind of crazy the amount of pressure that Paladin's able to put at every stage of the game right now.
Yeah. Wow, Xixo's extending all of the minions right now. This is a little bit scary against Concentrate. So he's taking a huge risk here. He feels under pressure with the Finja being on board, and he says, I'm not going to be able to play the passive game and wait for these to be 5/5s. I got to turn on the gas right now, try and pressure my opponent. And so if Consecrate comes out, he's going to have very little gas post-quest completion.
Yeah, and he's going to just bank on the fact that that's not going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where you can't beat it anyway, so don't play around it. Is Orange going to play Spire Crusade here? Looks like he just wants to set up the biggest possible wall. Okay, so...
Takes care of the crab so he can't get bounced with Vanish. That's something that's on his mind. When you see your opponent play out a lot of minions like that, you got to be a little bit afraid of their Vanish potential.
Yeah, I was going to mention the Vanish is the reason here for the... Oh, wow.
Okay, that's going to give him all of the Glacial Shards required to complete the quest and remove all the pressure from Orange, removing the Spike Ridge Steed.
In the process, so negating the buff. That last Glacial Shard is potentially even better than a bounce in some cases, because it puts more stuff on the board. Shadow Step would of course have been the nuts, but we'll settle with the second shard. Now the quest at 5 mana still can't be played. We've seen the prep early. Yeah, it's going to take at least one extra turn before Xixo can do this.
So now as Orange, he's got to be thinking, how do I put out as much pressure as possible? My opponent just vanished. He's going to have a hard time removing my minions. Let's see what kind of offense I can get to make it expensive to play that 5-mana quest.
Yeah, and then looking at this, he's got the option of the Tidecaller, the extra 1-drop, and the Finja. The good thing about that specifically is that it puts minions on the board before you're dropping down the Coldlight Seer and the Murloc War Leader, so you're actually maximizing their value. And you have enough bodies on the board that you can even, after that, Sunkeeper Tareem if the War Leader survives. So over 2 turns, this rogue is dead, unless they just completely shut you down with quest completion. So, yeah, Sunkeeper is also good insurance against the quest, if that were to happen. Oh man, not playing around Betrayal.
So he can complete the quest this turn.
This has to be the best draw in his deck, right?
Well, Prep was better.
Prep was probably slightly better, yeah.
Still a good draw, Shadow Step's never bad. Unless you have no cards in your hand and nothing on the board, I guess. But most of the time with this deck, Shadow Step's something you want to see. So I expect to see him start freezing some minions, maybe complete the quest this turn. He does have a read that there's no Consecrate. He might just go wide and try and set up his own lethal.
Yeah, I think that's usually what they're going to end up for. Assuming if there's a Tyrion, that's too bad, but I can always face tank at least one of those hits. One of the big things, too, we didn't mention it too much when it happened, but that Vanish was super costly for Xixo because the timing of it was not when he wanted optimally to use it, which is a pretty big deal. Oh, it looks like we're just going to kill them by freezing everything.
The quest.
We hadn't followed. I had not followed the South Sea deckhand.
Right, he had 1 Glacial Shard played and 2 deckhands?
2 deckhands, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I was still in the Glacial Shard plan here. Caster Vision. OP. Looks like Orange has the potential to bring out more Murlocs if he wants to. There's actually a ton of avenues for Orange to wipe this out. He knows that at least one of the cards in the opponent's hand is a Stone Tusk Boar, and one of them is a Firefly. So now the big question is... not Stone Tusk Boar, sorry, but Glacial Shard, my bad. So now the question remains of what the other cards are. Like, are they Shadow Steps? Am I just dead to bounce? Do I have to play Tyrion?
If he's following, super closely... He should know that Xixo still has a Glacial Shard generated from Mimic Pod, and then has the Glacial Shard from the bounce, a Flame Elemental, and a Stone Tusk Board, leaving only 1 card remaining in his opponent's hand that he doesn't know about. If that's a bounce effect, he still needs to top deck another bounce effect or the second Stone Tusk Board for lethal. So he should know that there's absolutely no fear of him dying to what's in Xixo's hand, and Xixo is required a top deck to be able to kill him if he clears the board. So that's probably why he's not playing Tyrion and being super aggressive with the Murlocs here.
Usually the correct line. Getaway Kodo's going to save one of those Murlocs, but I don't think Xixo is in any position to start negotiating with that board.
Right,
the most negotiation you'll hear is go face.
Orange tried to just play Tyrion. It's too weak on the board. He needs to be aggressive like this, so I really like seeing that. You're never going to be able to outvalue 5/5s indefinitely, but you can kind of punish them on tempo because they did just spend 5 mana technically kind of doing nothing when they're completing the quest. They're not investing in the board immediately when doing that. and that's your little window where you can kind of be aggressive and push, and I like seeing him take that.
So, speaking of liking to see, that 12-year Stone Shaper does not strike me as a particularly standard card in those decks, so I'm guessing it's one of those cards you put in for those games where you're able to enable the elemental completion, but you just don't have the quest complete. So you just have the elemental sticking around as a way to stall. You can use a 12-year to buy yourself a little bit of time.
Right, yeah, it's becoming more and more popular. Osaka, I think, was the first player that did that. And then we saw almost every player by the end of EU versus CN after the decklist resubmission started putting in Tolvir Stone Shaper, and a lot of them also even put in Tar Creeper as well. Just like things that can help you get to the spots where you can complete the quest. But it doesn't seem too bad post-quest completion here. 5/5 Divine Shield. Pretty saucy.
Yeah, lucky for Orange that Stonehill Defender got into Sunkeeper Tareem earlier. It's one of those emergency buttons you can click to help yourself get out of this type of mess that so often happens against Quest Rogue. It's still not too much, you know, with 2 frozen minions, you're still only cleaning up 1 of those, and then you know that everything's going through, and if he's got even 1 charger here, you're just out of it. It only takes 1 charge minion and you're done.
Depending on what the secret is. If it's Redemption or Noble Sacrifice, we know it's not Noble Sacrifice, but it could still be Redemption, and Xixo's got to think about that. And
the big question, of course, being... Yeah.
He's got no lethal, but it's not. It's Getaway Kodo, so Xixo has lethal here. I imagine he's just going to run the Stone Tusk Boar in and try and kill it and figure out that he has lethal. There's no real other line here, so he's going to accidentally figure out he has lethal.
I mean, that's the important thing, really, is that he's got no choice. He's looking at maybe setting up trades afterwards, right? But then that's way too risky, knowing that there's a War Leader in the opponent's hand. You're just dead on board. So he figured it out immediately and is going to see that, barring an unfortunate redemption, he just wins this by going face for exact lethal with the dagger on top. So very close game regardless, right? It really could have ended up slightly differently had there not been the charger in hand for Xixo. Well, that's game 1 for Quest Rogue, and if Orange's point bringing this lineup, playing aggressive decks, banning Druid, was to isolate Quest Rogue, that did not succeed at all. And Xixo, so with the Mage and Paladin, is going to have a field day afterwards.
Yeah, we're not sure that that's exactly his point, but typically speaking, that's something you keep in mind with your aggressive Paladin builds, is they're super favored against Quest Rogue, except when the Quest Rogue's able to find that Hungry Crab, and that was kind of the little bit of swing Xixo needed to give himself a chance, and then he was able to, you know, follow up with that little bit of leeway of tempo he created and finish the game off.
Yeah, no real big surprise there. When the Quest Rogue gets going, they find what they need. Oh, that's interesting. We see Xixo and the Secret Mage. Secret Mage is kind of the novelty thing right now, I think, in the metagame. It's been about 2 weeks of Secret Mage Uprising, and I think it's reached a peak. It might keep going up and up in terms of how much it's played, but that deck is extremely good at just dealing, traumatic amount of tempo. It's kind of spooky, in fact.
Sometimes you get the dream curve of the Mana Worm Archaeologist, Kirin Tor Mage into 4 mana 5/5.
Into Crystal Runner, which is absolutely backbreaking. The worst part, too, is that a lot of lists for Secret Mage have been super diversified in terms of what secrets they build. Like, the typical list include Counterspell. That's no big surprise. But then you've had people starting to include Spellbender and Potion of Polymorph. So suddenly they're drawing a wide array of spells, and you're playing around everything. And, I mean, that's just typically something you can't afford to do. But you're kind of forced to in this case. All right. And suddenly Xixo is looking a little bit worse off with that play by Orange.
It's not in that bad of a spot. It's the secret up. Counterspell is not that ideal against Pirate Warrior, but he has some hits. We can see already 2 spells in his hand. Upgrade and Mortal Strike. Upgrade going to be taken out right away.
If you look at that, I look at it that way, right? It takes off a ton of damage from the Arcanite Reaper. Because you're effectively removing 1 full charge of it for the future. And if there's a Fire War Axe at all, then you can also deny some of that value. That's a consideration now for what secret that is, right? He wants to make sure he's not ruining himself by playing to the wrong thing.
I see no reason not to play Upgrade, though. Like, what other
Yep.
spell do you want to get counterspelled?
I think there's nothing else, yeah. Either
That's
way, Upgrade's
interesting.
going to be soaking up that card.
Yeah.
Mana Bind Upgrade. Big deal. Whoop-de-doo.
Interesting. Why did he sequence it this way?
Wanted to check if it was Mirror Entity, so he could kill the minion first. I don't know, just...
Okay, sure. If it's Mirror Entity, then he can take one
Either
less
way,
damage while trading into it. Either way, he takes... Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he takes one less damage while trading into it if it's Mirror Entity.
Yep.
All right. Makes sense. If it's Counterspell, it doesn't matter.
But
That's a good
tempo-wise, you know, he's not that far ahead, right? Like, Orange had a decent start, coined out the South Sea Captain, one of the best cards to get early on the board, but it just wasn't really game-winning just yet. And with Upgrade gone, and that's one less ping in the deck for Xixo to worry about with that 4-1, so it's likely to just extract even more value on the board. That's pretty nuts.
He has a Spellbreaker in his hand, which honestly not that bad here on curve. Just take the trade with the patches, I imagine. Play the Spellbreaker because the Dread Corsair comes out for 0 mana next turn with the Arcanite Reaper.
Yeah, it also forces your opponent to be a little bit off curve if they don't have any means to kill it easily. And if it baits a Frostbolt away, that means your Reaper gets to connect. You're not frozen, so you can use it as removal if it comes to that. Secret Mages tend to run 1 to 2 Firelands portals. We've had a lot of interesting tweaks on how the deck is built. You know, accommodating for more late game. Some people run Yogg-Saron, some people choose not to. So we'll have to see what Xixo is running. Firelands portal, though, super standard in that deck.
Orange has 18 damage in his hand. Both Reaper swings connect, and that's usually a good number to start chucking everything at the face. You're a little afraid of maybe the Sorcerer's Apprentice being able to discount Firelands Portal, but I still think you go face here because there's a lot of cards in the deck that deal 4 damage, and you're hoping to find one of them. And he's holding on to Dread Corsair here, waiting on the Upgrade Pirate. Bloodsail Corsair.
Oh man. So now that Spellbender is threatening Orange with a potential counter spell play that he's super worried about, because he was looking at this like 22 health, I've got 18 guaranteed, I need to find one more Mortal Strike, one Heroic Strike, one Corkron, and I'm good to go. And suddenly the possibility of that 4 damage not being there available to him is really scary.
Well, as long as he goes face with it, Spellbender will not activate.
All right, let us see if your counterspell. Nope, we're good to go.
Yeah.
Not counterspell indeed.
I think the Dread Corsair there is a little risky into Mirror Entity on the Secret. I really don't like that. He held it the previous turn. I think you kind of have to just commit to holding it, as if Mirror Entity copies it, then you're going to have no chances for lethaling your opponent. If he doesn't equip the Fiery War Axe here, then he has 1 out for lethal next turn. Only the second upgrade can give him the damage. If he equips the Fiery War Axe, does it open up additional possibilities?
There's Bloodcell Cultist, but your minion's dead, so that's not going to happen. So you'd be... Yeah.
Rogue Strike number 2 is open now. So you add yourself 1 additional out to find lethal the following turn.
Yeah.
As well
he needs 2 turns to do it, though, right? So if this brings out a 5-drop with Taunt, that could be a pain point, but no such thing.
Well, he's got like Leroy, Deckhand, Heroic Strike.
Heroic Strike, yeah.
Yeah, so 3 outs.
That's not one of them.
No.
Look at the damage on the board. There's 13. So Orange has seen 2 fireballs. He knows he's dead on Frostbolt. He knows he's dead on Primordial Glyph, probably. So he's effectively still on the all-in plan. Never assumes that there's going to be an ice block there. I don't think that's too common in here.
So what he should do is swing face, hold the Mortal Strike, because he wants the ability to weapon one of his opponent's minions the following turn, putting him below the threshold for Mortal Strike, allowing him to connect it for 6.
Yep.
It doesn't open up any lethal, like any extra lethal outs to chuck it at the face because you have enough mana to double Mortal Strike next turn.
You get to weave in the cute little armor, so at least it keeps him safe from the Frostbolt kill on its own. And Xixo with the Firelands Portal is going to find the win, I think, right? That should be enough with the ping and the mana war buff.
Right? And then the ping.
Oh, yeah, with the ping that closes it, exactly. Well, that was the double Firelands Portal for you in a nutshell. Welcome to Mage, ladies and gents, and that is gonna do it. Part Warrior falls down. Orange's lineup just not having any chances against Xixo's early openers, but you know we talked about the opening hand for Xixo not getting the Dream Curve with Mana Worm and Archaeologist. I feel like his hand in that case served him better. The ability to that Kirin Tor Mage did so much work. That was completely absurd.
Mage was
Yeah.
brutal. Yeah, that was able to really shut down the way Orange wanted to kind of trade with the minions and really took care of business.
Yeah, I'm really confused as to, what Orange is targeting with the lineup. I feel like the Quest Rogue is now passed by. You see Pirate Warrior, you see the Paladin deck. Now I'm waiting to see what the Rogue is, right? We've seen some very aggressive Rogue lists in the past that have tried to target other Rogues as well by just jamming Cold Bloods in there. But I'm trying to figure out exactly by banning Druid if that was his targeted deck. Because there's not much else you're looking to beat with that.
Right, that's what it kind of seems to me as well. Just like try to target Quest Rogue and Quest Rogue won game one. That's a sad way to start a series.
Yeah, and this hand is a sad way to end it as well. But Xixo, with a similar deck to that of Orange, I think he's on the mid-range Paladin plan. Orange more on the aggressive side. We saw the Grimscale Chum earlier, which is usually telling you that the deck is a little bit more on the aggro side. Yeah, definitely on the mid-range Pally for 6-0. Rag Light Lord.
When the mid-range Paladin has a better curve than the aggro Paladin, usually that means you lose the game. So I'd say like Xixo's probably going to take it 3-0 from this position.
Yeah, it's pretty standard in that spot. It's a matchup you've encountered a lot ever since Paladin kind of rose to popularity. I forget who made the first, Paladin push to rank 1 legend. It was like, aggro Paladin is the next big thing. And then everybody started branching out into mid-range, and people said, you know what, we don't need Murlocs, let's just bring back old school control. And then mid-range started farming Taunt Warrior, that's now falling apart in terms of popularity. There's been a lot of meta shifts, and seems like the mid-range deck for Paladin, while slightly less popular than before, has been performing very well, at least in the mirror matches.
Yeah, and this War Leader coming down with the buffs should seal the game. Orange needs True Silver to respond here. Good War Leader. Otherwise, that's going to stick and just value trade all of his minions forever.
And it looks like, this is complete air for Orange here.
Right, and you gotta feel for him because he's playing the aggressive variant. So that means Xixo has better late game than him. And if you're losing the early game against the deck that has better late game than you, it's...
that's pretty sad. It's one of those things where there's no turning point where you're just going to put on aggression that they haven't had before. So in this case, Xixo is just completely shutting down his opponent. He's going to take the trade anyway because you want to protect that War Leader to set up the lethal in the following turn. But Orange is on what now? There's no contact. There's nothing that can help him here. And that's going to be it. 3-0. Turn 4 lethal, effectively, for 6-0 with the crazy Murloc opener. And that's going to be series number 1, going to 6-0 in what seems to be a trend in the current metagame where aggressive openers dictate a lot of the way lineups go.
Yeah, it was pretty quick there. Orange kind of just had a garbage hand with the Paladin game 1, and then game 2, he had like an okay Pirate hand, but nothing special. Xixo got the Kirator Mage Tempo swing off, and
no Fire War Axe, no Kirator. So
yeah, there's no way for Orange to like effectively answer that, and the counterspell just kind of screwed him a little bit there. Fell behind, wasn't able to recover, and then game 3 was just a wash. Like he didn't have a chance. There's nothing he could do.
Yeah, so. It's when it comes to Murloc matchups, it usually is the first guy to get on the board, set up the War Leader or the Cold Light Seer, get value trades, then transition. But in this case, there was no transition needed because it wasn't even matched as far as how the early game panned out. So Orange ends up falling 0-3, but he's going to be playing another game today. That's not the only game he's got. He's going to be playing against Neria a little bit later. So opening up the series here with a 3-0 from 6-0. Stansifka and RDU are up next. We'll be taking a short break, I believe, before we set up that game. That was a very swift 3-0 from 6-0.
Yeah, Orange tried to target Quest Rogue, a strategy that's pretty valid, and the Quest Rogue got a win. And it didn't even have an exceptional Quest Rogue hand. It was more just like the aggro decks he was using to target it didn't have a very consistent draw, which is, I'd say, not really a fault on the way he played the game. I thought he played the game fine. Yep. It'd be a fault on maybe trying to target with inconsistent deck strategies, right? That's where that falls in. It's like you're trying to play this aggro Paladin that curves, 1 to 8, and you're trying to target a deck that doesn't play, it plays like the Quest Rogue. It's just the game's over on like turn 6. So is that really the best possible deck to target it? Maybe you should have tweaked it a little bit harder with your targeting strategy. I don't know. I think that's really the discussion point. It's not really on how he played the game. I thought he played fine.
Yeah. That's a good point. Maybe playing just a more all-in version of the early game
Right.
package, for Paladins was a little bit more appropriate in that case. Because we did see Spiker's Steed, we saw the Tyrion, everything's a little bit slow. You're opening yourself up to getting starting hands like he had,
Exactly.
in all the games that he had. Where Gentle Megasaur is stranded because there's no early game, then you get a Spiker's Steed and a Tyrion. You're pretty much locked out. Unless you keep drawing perfectly into that Murloc curve, you're just never getting onto the board. So Xixo with the Quest Rogue, I think there was, one of the plays that I really liked was the Prep Mimic Pod, super early. Usually you tend to see people just hold on to the prep for the quest completion, which is oftentimes correct. But in that case, the value that he extracted from getting Glacial Shards or even Shadow Steps, whatever the case may be, anything was better than his current hand state against an aggro deck, was super well played. So I think that was one of the MVP plays.
Definitely a good Quest Rogue player. I've seen a lot of Quest Rogue plays made. I've seen, because I think almost every person in EUVCN had Quest Rogue, and I think almost every single one, I watched those games and I was like, that just doesn't seem right. And they kept losing. Yeah. But Xixo plays Quest Rogue and he keeps winning, so he's doing something right.
Yeah, reminds me of the Patron Warrior days. Anyway, guys, we'll be taking a short break. We'll be right back for more StarLadder action. Don't go anywhere.